know, if Windsor didn't exist, somebody would have to invent it. In fact, I think somebody did invent it because it's all so artificial, so unreal. It looks like a stage set designed by, say, some Sean Kenny of the Middle Ages. You just look what this town's got. First of all, there's the castle there, sweeping down from the 100-foot-high chalk cliff overlooking the Thames. It's a Norman pile, and they've been adding to it over the intervening 900 years. And then crouched at the foot of Castle Hill, originally for protection, but now for prosperity, is the town itself.
Round about 1 million people a year visit Windsor, and they come in all shapes and sizes, all kinds and colours. But they have one thing in common. Each flock of sheep has its shepherd, who lectures them, guards them, guides them, and finally hurries them off somewhere else, having done Windsor in about 20 minutes flat. Naturally, this makes the town a paradise for the souvenir shop. It's an especial paradise for the shop where they specialise in royals. Queens of the past will cost you $3.50. Fat old Henry VIII is $4.50. But it's nice to see our beloved Queen cost $7.50. Windsor has clearly got its values right. There's even an African goods shop where the visitor from, say, Nigeria can buy something made in his own country and shipped over here. He pays highly for it and then takes it back to its country of origin. Devilish cunning, these Windsorites. Or are they? For if the town is a tourist trap, it appears to do very little to ensure that the tourists stay trapped, except, of course, by their guides. Although Windsor has lots of places to eat, drink and be moderately merry in, there are very few places where the tourists can stay the night. There aren't many more than 300 beds in the town, and most of those are in the few big hotels that the place possesses. Hotels like the Castle and the Hart and Garter, Hart with an oldie-worldy E on the end, of course. But then most tourists stay in London, and for them Windsor is just one trip amongst many. So perhaps after all the town knows what it's doing and is quite content to take the day trippers and to live off their money. But is it?
Not far from Windsor's castle-encrusted hill is a place called Slough, rapidly changing, rapidly developing. Not the most beautiful of towns, Slough has come in for some slanging in the past. Come friendly bombs and rain on Slough, as John Benjamin said, is not the most unkind thing that's been said about it. A Slough of despond is another. But the fact remains that Slough adds weight to Windsor, for no fewer than 8,000 of the residents of the royal borough earn their daily bread in this mass of light and heavy industry that starts only 3 miles from the castle walls. A fact which some of the more genteel residents of Windsor would like to forget.
Queen Victoria may not have been amused very often, but I'll bet she's delighted every day by the Scots Guards, a remarkably fine body of men, as they march past her on their way up to the castle and the changing of the guard.
People might say it's a lot of costly, meaningless, time-wasting mumbo-jumbo, but not me. I say it's a magnificent spectacle and the sort of thing that brings the tourists flocking into this town of Windsor. Of course, it's got other advantages too, because you see, the royal family like Windsor. They live here, they've died here, some of them are buried here. They took their family name from the place. And so it's a town where you can see not only this sort of pageantry, but where you might, for example, as we did yesterday, see Prince Philip riding in the home park, or where you might see one of the royal family shopping, or where you have the pleasure of tripping over a corgi with an aristocratic expression while you're buying something in Marks and Sparks. It all adds up to a tremendous tourist attraction, and I think it's fair to say that tourists really get their money's worth here in Windsor.
And where else would you find a spot like the home park so near to the centre of the town? But spot is hardly the right word, since it's many acres in extent, and the long walk runs straight as a die right from the door of the folks who live on the hill until it disappears in the distance and the mists of the morning.
When she goes out, she has a motorcade with 6 people in her, 6 cars. No guards, no outriders, no police, no guns, no soldiers. She just goes out in her car, and you and I, in fact, in the summer when they're going around, we all stand there and wave to them. You can touch the fender of the car.
Mind you, at weekends, Windsor is pretty awful. The crowds are so great you can't even walk on the pavement. The Berkshire Blackpool, they call it, and so it is, except you can go all day and hardly hear a word of English spoken. But though the tide rolls in, it rolls out again too, leaving the place little changed. The Hart and Garter still stands on the site of the inn where Sir John Falstaff used to drink and where the merry wives of Windsor led him such a dance. There's still a lot of drinking goes on, for Windsor is a garrison town and the brutal and licentious soldiery are said to spend £1,000 a week on beer in pubs like these. And when they've had a couple of drinks on a Saturday, Windsor belongs to them. As time goes on, Windsor is changing, of course, but not much. In the first place, it can't really expand in any direction because of geography. And in the second, the men who meet in the Guildhall, one of the most beautiful town halls in Britain, know which side their borough is buttered on.
The Guildhall provides, quite unintentionally, a fairly fitting comment on Windsor's appeal. The later stages of the building were supervised by Sir Christopher Wren. But when the building was finished, the townspeople thought that it was unsafe. So, to appease them, Sir Christopher inserted these 4 pillars. But what he didn't tell anybody was that he left a gap between the top of the pillars and the ceiling they were supposed to be supporting. But that satisfied the burghers. Thus proving what Windsor has continued to prove ever since, that you can put your trust in appearances, and by them your fortune shall be made.